This is the issue that Muslims tend to do. They tend to come here and they tend to push Islam. When you come in here to push Islam, you are trying to recruit numbers. When you're recruiting numbers, you're not recruiting for quality, you're recruiting for quantity.
I would do, if I was trying to establish the way for truth or not truth, I need to ground that in something that isn't me, that isn't the society, and is something beyond that. I have to do that. Why do I have to do that? Because we've established that you can't democratize truth. We've established that common sense doesn't prevail. And we've established that there are people that do things that could be completely wrong, and they think that that might be the righteous path for them.
The Muslims out there that are doing really bad things, they're just a reflection of their beliefs in Islam. So I can judge Islam as bad because these people are bad.
Yeah. So this is a disingenuous approach.
No, it's not.
I'll give an example. I have the highway code. Okay. Everyone here has done the driving test who are driving on the roads, and they've studied the highway code, and they should be adhering to this. So if someone is overtaking on the left and they're running people over, I could not use that an example to establish why the highway code is incorrect.
I was going to get out the stand, but yeah.
Take your time, don't worry.
I've got 2 mosques.
Don't worry.
And right now you're being quite nice, so I'm going to start off with this one. And if
I change,
you start becoming bad, then that one comes out.
This is V for Vendetta, right?
Yeah. But it's the anonymous mosque.
Yeah, anonymous.
And it's gold because I push the gold pill.
The gold pill, yeah?
Yeah. So do you know how there's a red pill, the blue pill?
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
Mine is the gold pill. The gold pill is finding God through righteousness.
Yeah.
And living that way rather than...
This is our fundamental point of discussion, I think, first.
Sweet.
So, how do you swap your masks over? When do you?
Sorry?
When do you swap the masks over?
It depends on the conversation. So if the conversation starts going into a way that I'm like, okay, you're not being genuine, then the same mask comes.
That's the hint for me, is it?
Yeah. It's just trying to get people to recognize that when they are coming from a place of pride, anger, attachment, to start self-reflecting.
Okay.
That's why even my sign, I've changed it up a little bit. It used to say, "Welcome to the Church of Satan."
I'm glad you changed that.
But now it's just a
mirror,
yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. I was explaining it too much and people getting offended by the word church.
I think it comes across in the wrong way, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, alright, cool. So anyway, so fundamental issue you said was...
So just before the camera started, my name's Imran, you're...
Daman,
yeah. So we were...
You confused me, I don't know what is your face.
So we were having this discussion online initially.
Yeah.
And actually that was curtailed. I think it was the wrong type of stream, etc. So
I appreciate you guys having me on at the time.
No problem, any time. So one of the differences between us were actually, we were talking about discussing a specific thing. You mentioned the seal of the prophets. But I said there are more fundamental things that we need to cover, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can agree to disagree. And that was actually the claim of how to be in the world. Yeah. And I think because these are the specifics, the rulings, etc., are secondary or tertiary. The first aspect is actually how are you going to live in the world and on what basis. So that for me, that's the most important thing to explore initially before I get into the specifics.
So I typically say the righteous path, which is truth, love, compassion, contentment, and humility. Any of those you disagree with?
So it's not about because what you've done is you've given a name to this path, and then you've gone to the specifics of it. Yeah. What I'm interested actually in is where did you get this path from?
Why does that matter?
Because it matters. I'll tell you why. If everyone were to come and say, I'm following let's use the same label, righteous path, but actually everyone brought something slightly different. Yeah. Can we accept everyone's claim to be following the righteous path to be okay?
Well, that's why I asked if there's anything that you disagree with. If there was something that you disagree with, if someone came up to me and they claimed the righteous path, and one of the things that they mentioned in the righteous path was pride and anger, I would then say these 2 things I disagree with. Everything else I agree with, but these 2 things I disagree with. And then we can have a conversation from there. Asking them their authority or where they got it from is irrelevant because that's what they believe and that's what they think.
Okay, so let's sort of delve into that a little bit more. So if somebody does come and they do say part of their path is anger and whatever else negative thing you're suggesting.
Yeah, the negative part of the self-worship path is lust, anger, greed, attachment, and pride.
Say if somebody comes with those exact things, lust, anger, greed, pride, whatever it is, and they say this is my path, this is the righteous path, in my opinion. what do you have any way to establish for them that that's not the path?
Yeah.
How would you do it?
Common sense and consensus. So I would say, how many people have you spoken to that agree that that is a righteous, because righteous has a specific meaning to it. It's not, you can't have righteousness with anger, lust, greed, attachment, or pride. They don't exist together. So I would then ask them, how many people have you spoken to that agree that that's righteous? And if they say nobody, then that will show them that, I can't tell them what to think, but that will show them that they need to self-reflect on
So
what
I
that
appreciate
is.
that you're saying that you can't tell them what to think.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem here is that you're democratizing righteousness. You're making what is right and what is wrong a democratic process.
No, I'm not. I'm saying it's common sense.
Yeah, I understand.
If the righteous path that I mentioned, truth, love, compassion, contentment, humility, do you have any issues with any of those I said?
But this is, like I said, before we get onto the specifics, yeah, the first thing I need to understand is, because we're talking about two aspects, for me anyway, I don't know for you, because I just believe in this life, I believe in an life.
Yeah, no,
after
but
this life as well.
the whole point of me coming onto your show originally was to ask the question about whether you think there is anything, because I believe that there's things called fake Muslims. There's people who profess to be Muslim, but they don't live like a Muslim. That was the whole point, but then I was only allowed to ask one question, so I didn't want to go down into that rabbit hole and take more time up. So that was the main issue I was there, but then you guys asked me to only have one question, and then the question I asked was about what did I say exactly? I can't remember.
Seal of the prophets?
I think we came to that afterwards, but I think it was about belief. Yeah, it was the fact that Islam is becoming a belief-based religion rather than a deen, which is a way of living.
Sure, I remember now.
Yeah.
So, again...
So that was my original thing.
I
So
understand.
for you to bring it back to me about my own beliefs is quite reflective and doesn't actually answer any questions that I posed.
I'll tell you why it's important for me. Because one of the things you said is that because you're talking about this path that you say is righteous. This is something that you're saying, right? And then you give me the specifics of the path. But before I even get to the specifics of the path, I need to know on what is your basis for making this or asserting this claim that this is the righteous path. For me, the rational process of I'm going to accept what this person is saying to me.
Common sense.
Okay, that's fine. So you gave two things. One thing you said was common sense. The second thing you said was you would ask consensus.
Yeah.
You'd ask the number of people, and the majority of them said this is the right way. Then that would be
No, if they agree. Like I asked you, is there anything out of those 5 things I mentioned, is there anything you disagree with? Because then I can reflect on that and I could then think, okay, maybe I need to word that differently, or maybe I need to focus on something else more than that.
I understand. So for me, as an approach, just as a foundational level approach, there is a problem with this. There is a problem with this. And the problem with this is that just because the truth is not democratic.
I understand.
Yeah, do you understand? So if everyone voted that this tree was not here, it wouldn't change the fact that the tree is there. So, and we see examples in history of people as a society deciding to do the things that are wrong. Let's take something that's not controversial. Go back to the Mayans who were sacrificing people for the sun god, and they were throwing their heads off of the you must have seen Apocalypto by what's his name, Mel Gibson. Yeah. That sort of society had decided this was the way to appease the god or whatever, and this was the way. This for them was a righteous path. Obviously, we would disagree with that. So, the consensus and the common sense within that society were not suitable barometers to a certain truth. So what I'm saying is that I appreciate what you're saying. Yes, there is a righteous path. And the things that in that path that you mentioned, 100% I agree with you that those things are composite. They would comprise parts of that. But the problem really is, where do you get that? Where do you get this claim that this is the righteous path?
I can tell you that is through my experience with God, but then that's subjective, and I don't want to go down that route.
Yeah.
So this is why I typically don't say that. This is why I typically just say common sense, and I then ask you to maybe prove one of those things wrong, and then we can have a discussion about it. I'm not here to prove anything right or wrong. I'm just here to have a discussion.
But this is what I mean. So if the whole point here is that it's a personal thing, it's like you said, it's a subjective thing. I've had experiences with God, and this is my subjective position. Then that's fine for you. You can go and do whatever you want. The point it becomes an issue is where you then say to anybody else. So the guy that comes and has all the opposite views of what you call the righteous path, and his label righteous path contains those things that are opposite to what you say. On what basis are you saying it? So we established common sense,
Okay, so
democratization, and even subjective experience are not sufficient.
No, but this is the issue that Muslims tend to do. They tend to come here and they tend to push Islam. When you come in here to push Islam, you are trying to recruit numbers. When you're recruiting numbers, you're not recruiting for quality, you're recruiting for quantity. I just had a conversation with someone just a few minutes ago where one of the Muslim kids was running around with his camera in his hand, shouting at everyone else, just going, ah, ah. I'm like, okay, don't give dawah to people who are non-Muslim. You need to give it to that guy first. That guy needs dawah first, because he's obviously lost the message. Unless that is the message of Islam, that you could run around screaming in people's faces.
So again, what I would suggest is, I appreciate there are some kids that are running around with cameras doing things that they shouldn't be doing, but actually what we're trying to establish here, the thing that we're trying to, so let me just be devil's advocate. If that person said to you, the righteous path, in my opinion, you're going to change your master.
Yeah, it might as well. If you become a devil's advocate, so shall I.
So I'm just going to give you a position. Yeah. So if I hope you don't think I'm being disingenuous.
It's okay.
I'm trying to get to the fundamentals. So if you think that if that person is doing something wrong, and they're not following the righteous path, if that's your position, then you need to have a way of establishing what the righteous path is.
Yeah, but the thing is this: if we go back to a source, which is what you're going to claim,
we need to have a source,
and you're going to claim that the Quran is your source, and that's
before that, there's because you've immediately one of the things you've done is you've got into specifically about a religion thing.
No, because that was the whole point of our conversation originally.
I understand.
The fact that you've gone into this
is
got nothing to do with the original question I posed to you guys.
I understand. I hear what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is that even before we get to the stage of establishing whether the specifics of any particular path are correct, do you understand what the point I'm making?
No.
I'm taking it a step back.
I'm making
it more fundamental. So what I would do if I was trying to establish the way for truth or not truth, I need to ground that in something that isn't me, that isn't the society, and is something beyond that. I have to do that. Why do I have to do that? Because we've established that you can't democratize truth. We've established that common sense doesn't prevail. And we've established that there are people that do things that could be completely wrong, and they think that might be the righteous path for them. So for me to be able to then say to them, you're wrong, I'm doing two things. First, I'm making a judgment based upon some sort of metric. So I need to establish what that metric is. And then I've got to give on what basis of that metric I'm bringing forward. Now, I'm not talking about any religion here, I'm just talking about basic principles. We can come to the religion in a bit. But for me, when we had that discussion online, there was a disconnect between wonderful, you're following the righteous path. I love the concepts that you bring forward, no problem. I don't have any issues with those. The issue was, if it's something that's common sense and coming from yourself, someone else can make the same claim. They can make the same claim, but then how would I, as a third person, distinguish between you two, which is actually the righteous path? So how would you go about?
I get this question asked a lot. They say, how do you know that the worldly path or the self-worship path is bad? So greed. Do you think greed ever leads to fulfillment?
So you've gone into the specifics again.
No, because you've asked me a question. How do you determine? So this is how I determine using common sense.
All right.
Greed, lust, attachment, pride, and anger, they don't lead to anything but more pain.
Okay.
Whereas truth, love, compassion, contentment, humility, that leads to a fulfillment within oneself that you are then able to connect with God. If you don't have that fulfillment, if you're saying that you could get fulfilled from lust, anger, greed, attachment, and pride, then that may be you. This is a funny thing. God gave everyone free will, so you're allowed to choose what you want. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'll just say that there's a better path. And if you choose to go down your path that you believe is 100% right, that's your choice. I'm not forcing anyone to do anything.
And this is the point that I'm making. So, in your example, the thing that seems to be the purpose of the path is fulfillment. And then you actually give, and I'm sure you appreciate this. You've given some criteria for determining actually how do you know something is the right path. You gave criteria, and the criteria were, you pointed at pain, you pointed at happiness, etc. These things. So these make an assumption. There's an assumption underlying these claims, i.e. that the way to have the righteous path is a path of self-fulfillment, which is based upon happiness and etc. 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 Do you understand? Do you follow that, or do I explain that again for you?
Explain it again, because I don't think it's self-fulfillment. It's more of a, because with humility, and contentment, you're not chasing things. You're trying to work on yourself consistently, and you're trying to be appreciative of what you already have.
Yeah.
So it's not being a chasing of self-fulfillment. It's more of a understanding of reality, and then accepting reality and being able to grow from that.
Which reality are you talking about?
Life. How many realities do you think there are?
No, I'm just saying because you're talking. Because the things you're talking about are sort of abstract things like humility and
because
happiness.
we're talking about stuff that I didn't even want to come into today. The fact I came here to talk to you was about what I originally posed a question to you about.
I understand.
And now we're talking about my beliefs rather than your beliefs. And I don't think that's...
I'm not trying to trap you. That's not my aim, damn it.
Unfortunately, this is a common thing that happens here. When I'm trying to talk to someone and question them, especially Muslims, instead of answering the question directly, they will try and flip it back to me and say, no, what's your authority? How do you come to this conclusion? And it turns into a conversation about me. I don't like talking about myself.
I'm not talking about yourself.
I want to talk about the Quran and what you guys believe.
If you think I'm talking about you, I'm sorry. I'm not talking about you. What I'm trying to understand...
I want to talk about the Quran and what you guys believe.
I understand. But what you have to... The thing I'm trying to establish is... Why should I take your...
You don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to. I told you. I'm not converting anyone. I'm not pushing anything.
It's not about conversion.
I want to know why...
Man, you're going to let me finish my sentence.
I've been letting you talk for a while. You've been leading the convo.
Please go ahead.
So, I want to know why Muslims think that they have a deen when it's turning into a faith-based religion. When it's like, you have to believe this, you have to believe this, you have to believe this, and now you're a Muslim. Rather than this is how you act in order to be someone who submitted your will to God, aka a Muslim.
Okay, I don't recognize that description
Of belief.
that you've given.
Okay.
As of Islam turning a deen into a religion. Because right in the beginning, what I mentioned to you was that when Muslims talk about deen and religion, these are this English equivalent of the term. When Muslims say even the word religion, they're referring to deen, which is the way of life. Now, the point here is that the description you've provided about your concern that people are now following a religion rather than following the deen, it's about beliefs rather than actions. I think there's a misunderstanding in terms of the Islamic position on this. I can explain that.
Yeah, go for it.
The point that I was trying to make, which is more fundamental, is that, and this is what the sentence I was trying to complete, was why should I take anything that you say with any, like you said, because you don't appeal to authority, you say consensus, common sense, and subjective experience. So I think those things are insufficient as a way to establish anything. I'll make it that extreme.
Yeah, but
anything.
essentially Muhammad had a subjective experience which he then shared with people. And like you said, just because the majority say that the tree isn't there, doesn't mean that the tree isn't there.
Yeah.
So just because the majority said, oh, Muhammad was telling the truth, doesn't mean he was telling the truth. It was a subjective experience that he then wrote the book
understand.
from. So we can play this game all day long, but I don't think it helps anything.
No. So the point here is that I'm glad you've done this, because one of the things you need to do is you need to establish the criteria that we use to make the claims that we make. And
Okay,
what is the
use?
evidence that we have to establish the veracity of the claims that we make? So you said consensus is not sufficient. Okay? You said common sense is not sufficient. Okay. Subjective personal experience is not sufficient. So we have to...
I didn't say they're completely insufficient. You said that. I said that those are the things I use to understand that there's a general tone to life where everyone would typically agree that it's better to be loving to each other than to be angry at each other. Most people would agree that it's better to be compassionate with each other than to be proud and think you're better than everyone else. So there's a common consensus in that, and there's a bunch of common sense in that.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. But what I'm talking about is something more fundamental in this, which is the basis of it. Now, for Muslims, none of us, you're absolutely right, none of us witnessed the subjective experiences of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. None of us did. Were there people that did? Yes, there were people that did. Do we have a product of those? Do we have a product of those experiences that we can refer to today? Yes, we do.
What's that? The Quran.
The Quran. We can talk about that.
Yeah, so you're opening another can of worms.
That's fine. I mean, everything is a can of worms essentially, until you get into the bottom. But the difference of it. But the point here is, what I'm pointing out to you is that at least I'm referring to something that's outside of my personal subjective experience,
but it's somebody else's subjective experience.
The text, the fact itself. The Quran is not outside of my personal subjective experience.
No, it's somebody's experience.
Okay,
written it down,
it's available for analysis, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So there is something that I can refer to And then I have to look at that and look at the how we as human beings establish what things are true, factual, infactual. We can go into all those details. Now I'm saying that I have a way of referring to something, and I have a concept which is maybe different to yours. I don't know. Sorry, 1 second. I think my phone is ringing.
Oh yeah, that is you.
1 second. Oh. So one of the things that is that I have a belief in that we get our righteous path from something which isn't ourselves. Beyond, I mean, when I say ourselves, I mean human beings.
Okay, but then so you're saying the Quran is from God?
I'm saying the Quran is from God, but no. Before we go into that, because that's the second.
No, because now we have to test that. Because like you said with my thing, you have to test the thing, and you have to find
I understand.
basis.
Before you test this point, the thing to test is: do you agree with this concept that if consensus is not sufficient, if common sense is not sufficient, if subjective internal experience is not sufficient, then what the thing that because we see examples of where this has failed in history, and even today it fails. The thing that we need to have, Anis, do me a favour, make sure that the man's camera is pointing the right way.
Yes, please, thank you.
I just saw you looking at it.
Yeah.
Just this one here.
The little one there, just make sure that we're both in frame.
Yeah. So I've got our cameraman working for you.
How much are you?
No worries. So the point that I'm trying to make is that you have to be able to refer to. There has to be an anchor for your basis for your claims. It seems to me that you are actually your claims are about how the righteous path is coming from yourself. Is that true or not?
No, like I said, it's experience with God, but I'm not going to bring that up because it's subjective.
But that's what I mean.
It's like Muhammad. Muhammad had an experience and then he wrote about it. I have chosen not to write about my experience. I've chosen not to write about it. I've just come to talk about what other people have come to the conclusion of.
So what have you brought as something that we can verify? Because now you're making a claim. What you're claiming is that God has spoken to you, or you've had experience with God.
Well, we'll come to that in a minute. So, because you made a claim earlier, you said that the Quran is from God. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's just play with that for a second. Who did Muhammad get the Quran from?
Okay.
It wasn't God. It was the angel, correct?
Angel Gabriel.
Yeah. So it wasn't directly from God. It was from an angel, which is a messenger. So when you make the claim that the Quran is from God, that's actually a false claim.
No,
because why is it not a false claim?
I'll tell you. This is, and it's very unusual. I'm surprised we're in this place. If you send somebody on your behalf, who are they representing?
How do you guarantee that it's from God and not just another angel?
We can come to the guarantee. We can come to the guarantee in a moment. So when you send somebody on your behalf, who are they representing?
Themselves.
Come on, Daman.
No.
If you, Daman, were to send somebody on your behalf, who is that person representing when they go to whoever you tell them to go to?
Okay, so I didn't expect it to come to this, but in the Quran itself, it says in there, I can't remember because it's on my phone and I'm using that to record at the moment. It says in there that you worship the one who guides, not the one who is guided.
I don't know what you're referring to.
I've got it on my phone. Basically, one of the surahs within the Quran itself, it says that you should put more importance on the one who guides than the one who is guided. So two things are two people are guided. That
doesn't make sense what you're saying.
No, it makes perfect sense. So the one who guides is God.
Yeah.
The one who is guided would be an angel or would be a prophet.
That's not the one that's guided. The one that's guided is the one whose the guidance is being given to.
Yeah, because before he received the guidance, he was not on the right path.
The man, you're missing something out. So there is the one who guides, and there is the guided, and then there is the messenger who gives the guidance.
Yeah, but the messenger doesn't have that knowledge unless he's been guided.
But you're conflating. What you're doing is you're conflating the guidance. You're stopping it in the wrong place. So the point here is there is guidance to get given. So first, because now we're sort of, I want to keep the hierarchy in your mind, yeah. So we have to anchor our truth outside of human experience and subjective experience. So we need to bring something that actually is tangible that we can present as an evidence, okay?
Yeah.
For the veracity of our claim about the righteous path.
That's what you guys want.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is my position.
Yeah.
You can disagree with that. Anyone else, say if there was somebody who came and said, God has spoken to me and we need, and this is what I'm saying, I'm going to say, well, how am I able to verify this? Because there have been many people that have made the claim. There are many people who have made the claim, right? It's throughout history. The question is, how do we verify that? So the first thing I will say is, if you're saying it's from yourself without giving me any evidence, it's something that I can't even contemplate. There are other reasons why I can't contemplate, but I would reject it. Because why? Because already the things that you're saying to me don't make sense. That you have a label of a path, you've given the criteria for the path. I've given an example of someone who labels the same label of their path but have opposite criteria. There's the only thing then that comes down. What is the status of the people who follow this? Are they happy? Are they not happy? Are they self-fulfilled? Not self-fulfilled? And the assumption that is the purpose for which this world was created. Now I don't have this worldview. The question really is that if you say that your path is for yourself and this is what you believe, I have no problem with that. You're allowed, like you said, free will. You're allowed to do what you can do. Choose what you want to choose and behave in the way you want to behave. The question is, why am I required to even take what you say anyway seriously? What's the requirement?
Like I said, that wasn't the point of discussion. I wasn't trying to make you take what I'm saying seriously. I'm trying to question your beliefs on your Quran. So, like I said, the fact that it should be a deen rather than a belief-based religion. Because I've spoken to Muslims, and when I spoke to those Muslims, they said that you need to believe in 5 things, I believe. They said that you need to believe in the books that came, you need to believe in Muhammad as the last prophet, you need to believe in God, and you need basically all these beliefs. And that's when I say that Islam is now becoming a belief-based religion rather than a deen, because a deen would be similar to what I'm saying, which is live the righteous path and make that connection with God yourself, because then you're doing it yourself and you're making that connection.
I understand. So this is where the disconnect is. So you're using the phrase deen, okay, not understanding that deen encompasses all of the things you're saying you're rejecting from religion. So a very simple thing. So in the Quran itself, in one of the shortest chapters, what it says is that everyone is in loss. Everyone is no problem. Everyone is in loss except for, and then it gives criteria for those who are not lost. So we don't separate your beliefs from your actions. Why? Because your beliefs manifest in your actions.
So all those Muslims right now, like I was saying, that were shouting at people, the Muslims out there that are doing really bad things, they're just a reflection of their beliefs in Islam. So I can judge Islam as bad because these people are bad.
Yeah. So this is a disingenuous approach.
No, it's not.
I'll give you an example. I have the highway code. Okay, everyone here has done the driving test who are driving on the roads, and they've studied the highway code, and they should be adhering to this. So if someone is overtaking on the left and they're running people over, I could not use that an example to establish why the highway code is incorrect. That's a disingenuous approach.
No, but the thing is this: we could use the highway code example if you like. So the highway code is given, and then there's 2 groups of people. There's the people who believe in the highway code and the people who don't believe in the highway code. The people who believe in the highway code call themselves
highway codians.
Submitters.
Yeah.
No, submitters, because that's the key part, because Muslim means one who has submitted.
Yeah.
They call themselves submitters to the highway code. And then when they go and do the opposite to the highway code, I have to say that's hypocritical, because they're not
I agree with you, it's hypocritical.
And then I have to look at the fact that if they are saying that the highway code is perfect and then they are going against it, it can't be that perfect, because they've said they're submitted against it and then they've chosen to do the opposite of it.
So this is where it doesn't follow. If the one who's not following the highway code, even though they said they're going to adhere to the highway code and they're going to follow the highway code, and they don't follow the highway code, you can't blame the highway code, and that's what you're doing.
No, I can.